Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. It was good reading. And so far, you guys are just top notch. Everything is just wonderful to be in a service like this. So I want to welcome everybody to the study of life and the nature of the laws of thought. The conception that we live in a spiritual universe, that God is in us, around us, and for us, and there is nothing against us. The science of mind is also a correlation of the laws of science, the opinions of philosophy, and the revelation of religion applied to human need and the aspirations of humankind. So our topic today is living as a compassionate conduit. What does that say to you about your own life? There's a quote from the Home Office that went along with the topic, and it says, often people speak of God's will as if the old anthropomorphic God, deity, is still the guiding, choosing, and leading us, when in truth, it is saying yes to each of our choices, end of quote. There's something in the universe that says yes to our choices. It doesn't say you shouldn't choose. It says choose, and I say yes, because it's the only answer it gives. So if you choose something that is hurtful to yourself, guess what? It said yes to that. But remember, you are free to choose everything that is loving for yourself, everything that is good for yourself, everything that advances your life, everything that allows you to feel the more, not the less. And you're going to get the answer, yes. Yes, 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 all the time. So we are conduits of love and harmony. Do you see yourself as that? A conduit of love and harmony? How do you see yourself? I mean, it's good to say that when others are listening and others are looking, because it speaks good of you. But what do you say to yourself when you're alone? When you look in the mirror, can you tell yourself, look in your eyes, you are a conduit of love and harmony. You are a divine instrument of love and harmony. If you could do that and not cringe inside, then you're probably on the right track and you're going to make it there somehow. We are conduits. We're conduits of something, but we can choose it to be love and harmony. The truth is, too often we overlook the connection we have to this creative being. We often are faced with challenges on the human plane. We find ourselves saying, why are things going that way? And why aren't they going my way? If we are really conduits of love and harmony, why? And a lot of us are trying to answer that question, why? Why? Well, it's one thing to know a theory and quite another to act out of the theory. A lot of us know a lot of the right things to say, but how do we act? Do we listen to ourselves? Do we let ourselves, our wisdom that comes through that one power, allow us to act in a way that enhances not only our own personal lives, but at the same time enhances those around us? It's one thing, as I said, but quite another to act according to the theory. So how do you rise to the level of your better intentions? I'm not going to ask people to raise their hands, but the question is, do you have good intentions? Don't raise your hand. Know that you can raise your heart open. Lift it up as an offering to God. How do you rise to the level of your better intentions? When do you rise up? We set up a power that responds when we rise up, a generative force that magnifies the use in the act of a greater result. There's an act that brings a greater result, and that is magnified through that generative force when we decide to do something wonderful, to be something wonderful, to act out of the theory. Something wonderful happens. We don't know how it happens. We do know that it does happen. And that's more important than to know how. The fact is, if you know it's going to happen, you don't have to figure out all the mechanics. You just have to reap the benefit and pass it on. A simple self-affirming statement could help. A simple self-affirming statement helps us to fortify our courage and passion in the very act. Say something like this, for instance. Today I choose wisely, compassionately, and decisively to express my authentic self in all I do. That's an affirmation. You can repeat that to yourself over and over and over. I'll say it one more time. Today I choose wisely, compassionately, and decisively to express my authentic self in all that I do. End of quote. So the reason you want to express your authentic self is divine. God made you in the image and likeness of itself. Guess what? God is the one that's called the divine. And God made you just like itself. Can you accept that? Can you look at your life externally and still accept that? If your life is not expressing in your mind what divine experiences are, can you truly say that and believe it? Well, it's true. You are divine, made in the image and likeness of the divine. But if you don't act like that, it doesn't tarnish your divinity. It sets it aside because your experience is not what you determine in your mind to be divine. How am I being a light in the world? I must answer that question to myself. How am I being a light? If I first see myself as a conduit, I must answer the question, a conduit to what? A conduit of what? What are you a conduit to? In other words, what are you attaching yourself to allow its beauty and power and life to filter through that conduit into expression as you, with you, for you, and not to you, because it has to come through you. God doesn't do anything for us. God does everything through us. Because God has already done everything for us. Guess what? When you were born, the world was already set up to support you. You had diapers, you had milk, you had a parent, you had everything needed to support you. That's why you grew up to be the kind of person you are, because you had everything to support life. So God has already made a provision for you to be the most enhanced living human being on the planet. What are you doing about it? When are you going to get serious about your life and not take it, well, tomorrow I'll do it? To put it off is simply to give power to something else that takes hold of you in the moment. Because all you have is the moment. You don't have any guarantees about tomorrow. None of us can guarantee that we'll still be here in the flesh tomorrow. How am I being a light in the world? The power of spirit, the power of life, the power of love, the power of peace, the power of light, the power of fulfillment, the power of the Almighty. All of these are for us to express our divinity. If somebody looks at you and say you're a divine being, I know that happens a lot to ladies. Very seldom somebody would look at a man and say, you're a divine being. Because you see, we have this strange idea that a divine being is some totally different thing than what God meant. A divine being is what we decide is divine, and we overlook our true divinity. We look at the flesh, we look at the material surroundings, we look at how the person has created or accumulated. That is not what makes you a divine being. That is the result of your being a divine being. Keep remembering that. How else how else can I be? How can I face all the challenges of human suffering and pain as living as a conduit of love and harmony? All we have to do is let that love and harmony manifest itself through us, come through us, into our hands, into our eyes, into our smiles, into our steps, into our decision-making, into the intangible aspects of our life itself. And you know what? You will be the happiest person on the planet Earth. And if you don't believe that, you're missing the opportunity to experience that. If you think what I said makes sense, change your thinking and become that conduit. There's a song that we used to sing a long time ago. I don't mean just science of mind, I mean a lot of people, because this came from the universe. Reach out and touch somebody's hand, make this a better place. Make this a better world. Yes, we can. Reach out and touch a life with the power of divine love. Touch somebody. Touch someone with love and compassion. What if you decided you were going to, when you woke up in the morning, you're going to, today, I'm going to live as a loving, compassionate person. Now, you have to have a good definition for that, not the definition that the so-called world has given love and compassion. Because a lot of people think if you live a life of love and compassion, you should be a doormat. That is totally wrong. Totally wrong. And if that is being done, then nobody gets past that unless they're willing to look past it and see what really that means to live in love and compassion. Because being a doormat doesn't make anybody a super person. Your good is multiplied by the generative power of your divine response.
If you're not sure what to play next,
divine peace, divine love, divine wholeness. Something greater than we are is present. It is saying yes to each of our choices. We are conduits of love and harmony. Am I allowing that to pass through? Or is it all choked up? You know, I'm going to challenge you to try that today. After the service, look in the mirror. After the chat, after you feel okay, it's complete, look in the mirror and say to yourself, are you really? Do you want to be? Is this your calling? I'll tell you something, everybody has the same calling when it comes to the attitude, the perspective, the consciousness in which we live our life. We may do different things with all of that, but our consciousness, you know, Holmes says, nothing moves until mind moves. Everything is by right of consciousness. So if your consciousness is anchored in the attitude of being the conduit of God's love and harmony and goodness, then you are going to decide what your specialness on planet Earth really is about. And it is, I could tell you what it's not about. It's not about being a doormat. I'm pretty clear about that. But beyond that, there are infinite ways in which you can live out this wonderful thing that you are put here to do and to be. I think it's exciting to think that the goodness that I can bring to the planet Earth, I still haven't fully discovered it and taken hold of all of it. Make yourself available to divine love, divine peace, divine wisdom, divine insight. You are a divine, compassionate conduit for the love, wisdom, peace of God in the world. You are that. Do you live it? It's a question only you can truly answer. And you know what? There's a person in the mirror that you have to speak to and about. And that person will tell you, are you really telling the truth? The one person you cannot believe the lie to is yourself. You could get a lot of other people to believe a lie. But you know what? When you look in the mirror, you can't fool that person. They always know the truth about you. Wake up to who you really are. Nothing in the world is more fulfilling than using yourself by creating a world that works for everyone. Nothing is more fulfilling than when somebody said to you, because of you, my life has changed to that, which means they've discovered how to be a better person to live out their life. Once you make the decision, remember this, the universe conspires to make it happen. Once you make that decision, some powerful, incredible, enormously powerful, wise wonderfulness is waiting to come through you. Don't wait until you feel like you're on your last week, on your last day, because we don't have any foretelling about when this transition thing is going to happen. A lot of us make the decision. A lot of people who commit suicide and people who starve themselves to death and people who surrender to what is not healthy, they made a decision to not be used, to not be the channel. You're probably saying to me, oh, you could sit there in your little ivory tower and talk about things like this, but you don't know the suffering people go through. I know the suffering people go through. Listen, my mother died when I was 8 years old. I missed her and I cried for her for the first time after I was in my 50s. For over 40 years, I grieved for my mother, but I never let myself cry because I felt the loss was so deep that I had to do whatever it took to survive. Thank God I was living with some good people who didn't take advantage of me. I knew what was possible. And thank God, most of the bad things didn't happen. I was able to make some good choices. I'm not saying I'm wiser than anybody listening or looking at this service today. All of us have the opportunity to make the choices. I wrote this and I'm going to complete with this. To hear from those you have touched cannot be compared to any other experience. If you are divine, divine individuation and nothing less, then when somebody is touched by you, they're going to feel that they were touched by God. They're going to say, God really blessed me. You hear people say that. God really blessed me. God blessed everybody, but a few people say, God really blessed me. You know why? Because they felt something extra, something they didn't realize was there, waiting for them patiently. It wasn't like an investment that was gathering interest. It was waiting with all its totality in the moment. God cannot be increased because God is all there is. Think about that. So when you act as a divine being, as a conduit to that love, to that wholeness, to that goodness, you are working with the ultimate power of love, the ultimate power of goodness, the ultimate supply of all that is the best. That's what it is. I'm inviting you today to decide, become a living, compassionate conduit for divine love. Close your eyes and let me say a little prayer here now for you. I know in this universe, there's only one life, and that life is God. God created the universe. God is the life of every life. It is out of that one life came innumerable life forms, variety that has no limit. It is still constantly producing more and more life in variety. That's the one life that I know that is present right now. Some people call it God. Some people call it spirit, infinite wisdom, infinite mind, universal mind. Lots of names for God. I know that that one presence is right here where I am and where each person who is hearing the sound of my voice or seeing the picture of an image that looks like me. God is present right there. And since I know that is true, I also know that since each of us is an individuation, a manifestation made in the image and likeness of God, that there are qualities in the macrocosm that exist in each of us as a microcosm. Each of us is a microcosm of that macrocosm that is totality in itself. Uncountable good, immeasurable peace and love. We are microcosms. And being a microcosm, I know that each of us has the choice to be able to speak our word. The word becomes flesh and dwells with us. The word becomes flesh and it becomes our experience. That's how it dwells with us. And I declare that each person here in the sound of my voice and the vision of my presence can speak a word that can add to their life unspeakable beauty, countless goodness, immeasurable peace and joy that can happen now. The imagination is a workshop of the mind. And I invite everyone today with the power of that life that I declare that is the one life of all life, that you can use our imagination. God gives us the power to use an imaginary mind that creates all of the manifestation, investment, invented things that have advanced human life came from the imagination. And I give thanks for the power of imagination. That is the power to see beyond where we now are. And in that declaration, I declare that each of us wake up and recognize it. I give thanks for the power of the spoken word, for the ears to hear, and the heart to receive, and the ability to choose. I give thanks for all of that and so much more. and I declare it good and very good. Say with me, and so it is. Amen. Thank you all for letting me take this time to share with you. And I love you. I just love every one of you. If you're seeing my eyes look at you, that's because I love you. That's true.